It looks like it's time for another installment of Women Officially Losing Patience with Drizzy. In this episode, we're getting into why women are starting to feel like it might genuinely be time.
I have 6 hours to give to Aubrey Graham. If you've been on my page for a while, you know that I'm not a huge Drake fan. I have kind of been on his neck for like the last 2 years since the Kendrick Lamar beef, but I've been on his neck like privately way before that. But I will say this, Drake is a very, very clear case of not knowing when to hang it up flat screen. I remember when Andre 3000 dropped his Meditative Flute album, which by the way, I love. And if you want to get your nervous system right, I really recommend listening to it. I fucking love that album. Anyway, I remember when he dropped that album and there were a bunch of people, particularly from the hip hop community, who were like, why aren't you rapping? Why aren't you rapping? And in a lot of his interviews, he was like, I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything that I think would add to my legacy here. I have nothing to say. And I don't think I have to. And I was really, really impressed by that because so many artists across genres really just don't know when to hold and when to fold them, girl. They really don't know. And then of course, there's the opposite side of the spectrum, right? Like Clips obviously dropped a stellar project so late in their careers. Not to say that their past discography was bad at all, but to say it is a testament to and a credit to their legacy, this album that they dropped, because they had things to say that were relevant to the age group of people that listened to their music and also brought new people in to listen to their music, but were still true to their artistry. And I think the thing with Aubrey is that he doesn't have either. He has no kind of semblance of understanding of when to like call it, but he also has no idea how to connect to his older audiences. And so I think he's grasping for younger audiences, right? And you know, that in and of itself, there's a lot to unpack with that specifically, but we won't get into that right now, girl. And I think it's really sad because when this sort of thing happens to your legacy as an artist, it gets very hard to control the narrative, right? Because now people are like, well, is he trolling? Is he trying to get out of like a bad record deal? Like, is he trying to like make money? Like, is he really like cooked? Like, is he no longer just like the Drake that we used to know? People are retroactively looking back at his legacy and being like, was he ever good? Like, when you don't know when to call it, it really does draw attention to the entirety of your legacy and it can jeopardize it. And I just like, again, as someone who's been very critical of Drake probably for the last like decade, even I am just kind of like in a very detached way. It's sad. It's very sad.
Now, this particular woman opened up about her fear of getting attacked by Drake's defenders simply for saying she wasn't feeling him or his new music anymore. And sure enough, his supporters flooded her comments with all kinds of unhinged responses, all because she shared her honest opinion. But don't worry about any of that here. This is
I made like a very lighthearted video about my disdain for Drake. A, because he's corny. B, because he's a C, like it's brain rot music, and y'all are stupid if you're eating that up. You're eating that up, and he knows you're gonna eat that up. He doesn't care that it's mediocre. He's gonna keep putting out mediocre music because y'all have mediocre ears. Anyways, they're eating me up in the comments. I thought that he was a public persona, public figure that, you know, we can speak of and voice our honest opinions. Like, what do you guys want me to say? I love Drake. I don't. I think he's a cornball, and I think he's a weirdo. More importantly, I think he's a weirdo. Like, I used to live in LA. He was out and about, okay? I know the type of shit he was into. Like, it's not cool. It's actually pretty sick, all of it. And the whole separate the art from the artist, fucking, if I separate it, I still think that shit's whack. I still hate it. Anyway.
Now, this next woman had a real problem with Drake when he decided to jump to Tory Lanez's defense during the Megan Thee Stallion situation. She wanted no part of that take. In her view, Drake could have stayed completely out of it, but instead he chose to use his platform in a way that added more division and more noise to an already serious situation at exactly the wrong time.
Got on here and said what happened to Drake during the Not Like Us time was disgusting. I'm going to remind you all why you shouldn't give a fuck. Because me too. I have to remind myself frequently throughout the fucking year why don't I care about what happened to him during the Not Like Us era. Because that was massive. That was huge. That was like humiliating on a global fucking scale. And I love Drake. Pivotal moments in my life were listening to Drake music. Like, he is an incredible artist. I grew up on Drake. So for me not to care, or for me not to like want to be involved in the discourse is odd. But then I remind myself, that weird raggedy whore got on the internet and said free Tory Lanez for no other reason than to further humiliate and ostracize Megan Thee Stallion when she had to check into a facility that cost her $250,000 to protect her from herself. And to even further the point, he could have stayed quiet. He didn't have to say nay or yay. He could have supported Tory Lanez in the background and then said nothing. But he used his huge, massive ass platform when he was seeing her get all this constant hate and vitriol to the point where she was actually losing her mind. Mind you, she had already lost her mother, her friends, her fan base that she, thought she had. A lot of them were, off of her because they support abusers. And if you look back within like 1 to 3 years, people like Nicki Minaj, P. Diddy, Drake, DaBaby, all got their just due within 1 to 3 years of them trying to publicly humiliate and embarrass Megan Thee Stallion during this time. They really did. So every time I think I want to feel bad for Drake about what happened during that time, I literally don't. I'm never going to give a fuck. I'm never going to give a fuck just based off that comment alone, because I know where you stand. It's the same thing about how I feel about Chris Brown. I'm never going to care. I'm never going to care. I don't care. And you don't know what it's really about. Yes, it's because he abuses women consistently, but I don't know anything really genuinely outside of the Rihanna situation. It's also because he very obviously does not like Black women. And I don't like that. To me, that's leads a trail to something more secretly deep and dark that's wrong about you. It always will. It always will to me. The moment you show me you don't give a fuck about Black women, something dark and deep and scary is there. Yeah, so if you also felt bad, this is a reminder.
Now, this next woman actually gave Drake a fair shot. She wasn't coming in with an agenda. She genuinely likes some of his older work, so she figured enough time had passed since all the battle rap drama. She went into the new music thinking, okay, I'm gonna get those vibes.
Trying to get into these Drake albums, but I'm not gonna lie. Out of 57 million gazillion songs that he just put out, I think only 3 are a true banger, and I've never felt that way about Drake. I feel like he can get on somebody's song and make them feel like a feature. But this feels so experimental of him to let out 3 albums. It feels like he put all, it just doesn't feel like there's intentionality behind it. It just feels like he put out a bunch of songs that he's been holding on to for the last several years. Because what is it called? True Bestie, whatever that Bestie song is, he ruined that song. There's several songs where I'm just you should have just let the feature be the song. And I'm sorry, I'm not a Drake hater, but I just have to give the honest review, because I do feel like Drake fans will just eat up anything. And I'm nah, he ain't do his big one with this one. And he put out 3.
Now, putting aside all the other valid points these women have raised, at the end of the day, the albums are just mid. Did we make that clear enough? Because let's say it again for the people in the back. They are beyond.
It's for the men that gotta ask you if it's in. It's for the men that gotta ask you if you can feel it. And then when they ask you that, they whisper it to you to try to make it sound sexy. When the truth is, they asking you because they really need to know. Because your facial expression is telling them, I don't think she can feel all this. When in reality, it's all or nothing. When in reality, we laying there balancing our checkbooks, thinking about what we gonna cook for dinner, trying to remember if we paid Geico or not. Bring back old Drake. Back to back Drake. Pound cake Drake. Because baby, what the fuck was this? What the fuck was this?